All right, welcome everybody to today's webinar. We're excited to get going here. We're gonna let some of the stragglers come in as they do. I'll just kick off with a couple house cleaning items and tell you just a little bit about myself as we talk about the 5 secrets to help building pipeline. So before we do jump in, I want to just review one quick thing with you. Again, today we'll be talking about the 5 methods of becoming the CEO of your territory and building pipeline like you've never built pipeline before. You will get this recording after the fact. It will be available for a couple days. So watch your email as you will see that. At the end of this, we've got a cool offer for a consultation and a service that we want to offer to you. So do stick around till the end. I think it'll be exciting. And then lastly, I want this to be interactive. I'd love to answer your questions around pipeline and make this as beneficial as possible for you. So if you can, grab that Q&A box up above and type your name and where you're from, just so we can see some of the people that are coming in here. Perfect. Yep, Taylor, John, Peter, Fred, Mary, fantastic. Mike coming from Pennsylvania. Thanks for joining. Yeah, go ahead and put your name in that Q&A box. And I want to see, yeah, John, fantastic, coming from Orange County. Who else we got here? Livia, coming from Florida. Christine, Virginia. Yeah, feel free to use that. Yeah, it's good to see you too, Ryan. Some fan favorites here. We got Andrea coming from Spain. Yeah, fantastic. So feel free to use that Q&A box, you guys. I want this to be interactive. So let's dive in and talk about pipeline. And if you have questions, feel free to make them available to me. First and foremost, this is probably not your first webinar, but I wanted to just start and say, even if it is, even if you've attended other webinars, even if you've tried to build pipeline, you've had people tell you secrets to build pipeline, you've had people tell you you need to build pipeline, know that it is difficult. Even if your manager says keep building more and you have to build more and it's easy and you need to be doing better, it's not easy. And a lot of the things you've heard probably have not worked. But today I want to talk to you what has worked, what companies are doing to be successful to build qualified pipeline and to crush their quota. Now to do that, there's 2 things I want to address, 2 types of audiences. One is if you're new in sales or younger in sales, we want to make sure you get some of the basics, the foundational items as to how you can concretely build pipeline, some of the basic steps to do that. On the flip side, I want to make sure I cover for some more of the experts out there what some of the world's best companies are doing, some of the tips, tactics, and tricks that they're using to build pipeline so that you can kind of steal some of that. My thing, you guys, is if it's working for somebody else, there's probably a principle that you need to be taking in order to win in your own world. There's something that I think everybody can take from today's webinar. So as I mentioned, we're going to have a killer offer here at the end. We call it a lead response audit. It looks at cadence and response time. It's an assessment and benchmarks you against hundreds of thousands of companies. We typically charge about $700+ for it, but I wanted to make a special offer at the end. So if you can stick around, I think it will be worth your time. Okay, a couple of you asking, I was assuming some of you knew me maybe, but some of you definitely don't. We got Peter wondering if I was going to introduce myself. Peter, this one's for you. I am Gabe Larson. I'm the Vice President of Growth at InsideSales.com. If you don't know Inside Sales, we're the leader in helping companies with sales technology to build more pipeline and close more deals with artificial intelligence. And we'll talk about some of those pieces today because I think there's a manual way to do a lot of this stuff, you guys, and then there's going to be an automated way. Now, when I think about my career at InsideSales.com, I actually started as I started way, I mean, it's been let's see, what was that? 2004. This is actually our website at Inside Sales. Way back when. You can see, I don't know if that converted anything, but I started as an inside sales rep and worked my way up. I did manage a small team here. And truthfully, inside sales, we experienced some of our own bumps and bruises. And in around, God, what was that, 2010-ish, we almost closed our doors. We had some struggles. You know, the market had been struggling, obviously, with the 2008, 2009 meltdown. And one of the banks literally pulled our credits. The CEO had to go and get a part-time job to see if he could make payroll. Management went 3 months without any pay just so the company could survive. But boy, was everybody glad that they did that, because I went on and actually learned some super valuable lessons in sales. I closed $1 million deal. I closed a $10 million deal. The company really started to flourish. And you can see we had 100% year-over-year growth for 4 years. We recently, just in January, took $35 million from a strategic investment from Microsoft. We've won hundreds of awards, and there's been some real lessons learned for myself as I've run the sales teams here and the marketing teams here that I think would be valuable for you. Some of the lessons that have worked for us. And so I want to go in and talk to you about some of the things we've done and others have done to be able to get that exponential or exploding growth that you can experience in your own organization. So, and again, this isn't just me. I think there's great stories out there. This one's from Katie Azuma. If you know her over at Infor, she's the Vice President of Inside Sales and Global Business Development. Infor private company, 16,000 employees, do a little bit of revenue, as you can see up there. But with some of the strategies I'm going to talk about today, and again, we're thinking about pipeline, was able to really increase activities through some standardization and through some technology, and ultimately overlaying best practices on that to see that pipeline number just jump up by 41%. And when you're talking about big deals and big numbers like Infor, that means a lot. So let's get in and talk about some of the tactics and secrets of how it actually works. These are the things I'm going to merge 2 points here, but number one, it's discovering who you should be selling to. You have to start there. It's all about the leads. You can give me, you guys, bad sales reps and good leads, and I promise I'll make you money. If you give me bad leads or bad accounts and great sales rep, we will not make money. So number one, you need to know the who. Next, you have to figure out a prioritization concept. It's not enough just to know who you go after. You're going to have to find a way to then attack that in an organized and structured format. After that, you need to understand as much as you can about your prospects so you can get some personalization. Personalization will trump automation. And then last but not least here is engagement. This structured step-by-step communication process to see if you can't contact and qualify. You run through those 4 steps, and there's a little bit of an extra in step 3 there. You're going to get, I think, a strong pipeline build. Did I miss anything? Is there anything you guys feel, and you can go ahead and put this in the Q&A box, anything you guys feel is missing in these steps to build pipeline? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, and I'm going to just go to the Q&A box. Yes, we got John came in and just said, how do I find, seems like, well, how do I find, or something that could be missing is this idea around contact information. How do I make sure I'm actually calling the right number, I have the right email address? John, great question. One of the things this is, it's not enough just to understand the right people. You do need to figure out how you can actually connect with them, because it doesn't matter how good your email is if you have it. We'll touch on that just a little bit, John, but I think that is a fair point. We got Molly asking real quick just about, it sounds like Molly in the prioritization box, and you can tell me here. scoring your accounts so that you can find the right people. We kind of put that in the prioritization / discover box. So I think Molly will be talking about should you not score some of your accounts and your contacts. So let's jump through here and get into it. Phase number 1 is discover. Discovering who that optimal person is. So this is a great stat. I'll use it once or twice throughout this. Your best prospects close 3 times better. It's a little above 3, but I round it. 3 times better than your worst prospects. Now, the problem with this is most people don't know it. They just don't know which prospects really are better. And if they do, it's a guess. It's absolutely a guess as to which one works and which one does not work. So how do you overcome that? Well, there's a manual way, and I want to take you through that first, and then I want to take you through an automated way as well. So the first way, when we think about manually figuring out who your target buyer is, a lot of people use a model similar to this. Now, it's taken on different names. I'll be the first to admit that. You hear BANT, you hear MEDIC, you hear ANIM, obviously. These are all qualification models that are taught in most sales training courses, and I like this. I think this is a valuable exercise for people to go through in order to figure out kind of who they should be going after. What models do you guys use? I'd love to hear from a couple of you out there. Do you feel like you've gone, maybe you don't even know what ANIM is, but BANT, have you used BANT? Have you used other models? Pop that in the Q&A. I'd love to hear some of the ways you've found to use a qualification model to help you find your target audience. So it looks like we got Peter. Peter says they use just AN in their organization. That's authority and need. That's kind of been the way they qualify or think about target audiences. Catherine came in and they do BANT. So Catherine, yeah, BANT is a little bit older. Most people have switched to a newer model, but it's still, truthfully, Catherine, has a lot of the same principles there. I think, there's going to be pros and cons depending on your org. I like ANIM a little more, mostly because I feel like BANT, starting with budget, and does an organization have that? Sometimes it's difficult to find, but also I think that model has changed. You need to start with the right person, authority, see if there's some sort of need. You got to find money. Sometimes you need to see if you can connect that. Yeah, and Christine, other people popping in here. So Christine says, monitor my small industry for changes, which often drives purchase. That's absolutely right, Christine. So that typically is going to fall in either the urgency or the need category. Is there a compelling event, right? They just got funding. They just got a job change or something. And that kind of urgency pops in that. So this is the model a lot of organizations, thanks for the comments, you guys. This is what a lot of organizations think about: authority, need, urgency, and money. The question is, how do you apply it? And I want to see if I can take you through a quick example here. So a lot of organizations will sit down, and this is a great brainstorm. Get your sales team, get your marketing team together, and just sit down. Your customer success team. Hey, which characteristics of our customers, the ones who've bought from us, would actually are likely to buy from us in the future? Which characteristics of an account or contact predict the likelihood of a purchase? Okay, that's number one. Number two is, are we thinking about the company or contact? And where do we feel like that fits in that model? Are we talking about the person? Are we talking about the company more in the need? Are we talking about they just got money? That's probably more in the funding. Urgency, again, that's a compelling event or something they've done. I love this media. Okay, well, where do we think we could get that, you guys? And then what are some of the attributes? Is there a click down in the attributes? I want to see if I can show you. This is kind of the model we use here at Inside Sales, and I've done this exercise multiple times just to see if you can get on the same page with what we're actually targeting. And again, this is a manual way to do it, but we look for title, function, and what that basically is those are functional areas within an organization. At Inside Sales, we sell mostly to sales operations, some IT people. We have a technology product. That's very important that we don't go after HR. It's very important that we don't go after supply chain. We need to understand that title function. That's a big one for us. Next is technology. Now for us, our technology platform can only work with 4 or so CRM platforms: Salesforce.com, Microsoft Dynamics, SAP, Infor. If you have your own CRM system, our technology doesn't work. That's extremely important. So I need you to have that. That falls under N for Anim. Engagement. I like this one for urgency. Have you come to my website? Have you downloaded something? Have you interacted with our content? Opened my email? A lot of that can be captured in my marketing automation system. That's a great tidbit to know. Hey, is this an account that maybe looks and feels like what we should be targeting? And then last but not least is funding capability. Is this have they gotten money in the last little bit? Now you could add a lot to this list, right? I just put a couple down. A lot of people start more basic and they say which industry and where did the lead maybe come from? Is it an inbound lead or did we go targeted to it? The size of the company is a really important one for a lot of people. Territory. So there's multiple things you can put in here that say these are the things that we need to be looking for to target, and then you can actually kind of narrow that down. So if somebody doesn't have in our instance a CRM platform, well, that then goes off the list, and I've manually taken a list of maybe 100 accounts and said, you know what, I'd have to have the right size of account. I need the CRM. I need to have a contact from a specific function. I whittled 100 accounts down to 25 accounts, and now I'm ready to attack. So that's what a lot of people do manually. And I think there's some great ways, and it's a great exercise to do. If you automate it, and I'm going to pop into our technology here for just a minute, there's some great technology to help do that. What you're looking at here is what we call our insights tool. And it looks at your current customer base and basically tells you what is the profile of your best prospects. And it goes through some of these Anim type principles and just does an analysis. And I'm just going to highlight a couple of them here. But you can go through a variety depending on some of your data sources. But I'm looking right now at this segment. Do we go best for shipping or transportation? It looks like government. We have an incredible win rate with government. Why don't we continue to focus on things that are most likely to work with us, or accounts that are most likely to buy from us? In addition, you could go through lead sort. This is a fairly popular one. You might find referrals. Look at this one, 24%. How do I get more referrals? People who walk in, 25% close rates. Internet of Things, a web lead. Yeah, maybe our inbound is the best. So those are the things that we should really be focusing on. And some of these down below, they're not really, they don't match our ideal account or our ideal prospect. So therefore, we should be pushing those a little bit to the side. Last but not least, industry. I mentioned this one before. It's just a fun thing to be able to say, okay, which industries do we really win in? And you can see here, we may be attacking a lot of state and local government. Maybe we're not as good there. Maybe we should be. Now, there may be a lot of accounts and you got to find that balance, but maybe we need to find some of these other areas that may be a little more niche, but let's start with what's best, what really resonates with our audience, and then work backwards. So that's an automated way to be able to discover who you should even be thinking about going to first. Now, second is this concept of prioritization, because it's not just good enough to know who to go after. You then need to actually do something about it. And you need to start thinking about putting them in a sequence of activities that does have you actually focus on those people that are more likely to buy from you. So let's go into this prioritization concept. Now, I used this before, but I wanted to reference this one more time because I feel like this is very interesting. In the sense of this idea here, where you have your best prospects, again, close at 3 times better than your worst. But a lot of times we find that first and foremost, as I said earlier, people don't know what best looks like. But number 2 is that they spend equal time on their good prospects and their bad prospects. Now, this is one of the myths of sales. I got to admit, a lot of sales reps think, look, I got it. I absolutely know, who are my best people, and I'm going to go after them in this kind of order and fashion. What our data says, you guys, is that's not true. When we look a lot at a lot of our data, we find that these sales reps spend, again, equal time on their good and their bad, because their gut often leads them astray. And so we need to come up with some different ways to help people prioritize. Again, now that I know I'm going to target these 50 accounts, which order should I go into? Should I start with this one or should I start with that one? Now, manually, most people say, you know what? I found that lead source is a good, it's a good indicator of, it's a hot lead. It's something or someone that'll buy from me. I'm just going to prioritize those top to bottom, and I'm going to go after one by one and see if I can't attack those. That's one way to do it. There's other elements that you could look at, and that's what most people do. They'll say, you know what, I want to grab some funding events, and anybody who has a funding event, I'm going to take those 6 people and call them, or maybe the biggest companies to the smallest companies in my territory. So there's a variety of ways that sales reps do. What are some of the ways you guys have done that? Have you found something to work in your business? Lead source often comes out on top. That's why I've highlighted it here in green. Is there a particular factor? I think Christine said she really liked those trigger events, something that kind of, again, job change maybe, or funding, some sort of announcement. That would be that, oh, these 3 people had an announcement, I'm going to call them first or go after them first because I've got kind of a quote unquote trigger to go after. Looks like a couple people are saying company size, revenue size, like let's go after the bigger dogs first. We got Jamie who said that, and then Mike who came in after. So with company size and with revenue. So those are good. Oh, a couple people, interesting. A couple of people went with lead source. So lead source is, again, that's a little more of an inbound model, but I that one's often hot because we can track it fairly easily, and a lot of companies actually get a lot of those. So that one is usually not a terrible idea. Let me go into 2 other things here on this. One is, a lot of companies go for just a marketing score here. This has some subjectivity, and reps often get kind of confused in the way that it's used, but a lot of people are familiar. So this is another way you could start to think about prioritizing some of your accounts or contacts. The automated way that organizations are starting to do that looks a little bit more like this. So I'm going to pop back here into our technology, and what you're seeing here is, in the background, think of it like a CRM, and this is what we call our Playbooks application. This is a pipeline generation tool that sales reps use to prioritize, to discover, prioritize, and really engage with their ideal customers. So what you basically see here is, I take from my CRM a lot of these people that I'm like, okay, I know they're my ideal, but I throw them in our playbooks, and what it does is it actually scores them individually and from an account concept on their likelihood to buy from you. What that allows you to do is you can start to then filter and say, you know what, rather than just kind of randomly choosing things, I'm going to go after Kyle here. He's the highest scored, and this is why he's the highest scored. And I love this bottom section. This is the language of sales. I've actually, you almost set me up pretty good here, Tim. Tim just kind of wrote and said, part of the problem with scoring, whether it's a Marketo score or a marketing automation score, excuse me, Tim, is that a lot of reps don't follow it. What do you recommend to get people to follow scores provided by marketing operations or sales op? It's a great thing. And Tim, I was kind of getting there, and I promise I'll get to a couple of these other questions that are coming in. Yeah, the thing is that it has been a problem, and a lot of it, Tim, is because sales reps don't trust it, and it is their livelihood that is on the line, so it makes it somewhat difficult. And therefore, what you need to be thinking about doing is seeing if you can open up that black box. And I think things like this that allow you to say, well, now, wait a minute, 98, what is that? Oh, okay, it's got the right number of employees, and it looks like there's been maybe an engagement at an event, or, okay, that makes more sense. Oh, it's the right title. Okay, got it. Then at the bottom, I love this. Rather than saying you should call this person or email this person, it says, look, if you attack this person rather than just randomly choosing somebody, your net value, your chance of making money by attacking this person versus a random person is a lot. That's 8 times more than that. And that's the language of sales reps. So I love that concept of just opening it up, helping you prioritize with the score, but then giving you the why as well. Next, good questions. Thanks for joining in, Tim. This concept of understand, I don't remember who asked it at the beginning, but they talked, oh man, I should look that up, but they talked a little bit about contact information and how we think about that or how we deal with that. And I want to see if I can bridge those two together. You need to understand as much as you can about your prospect now before you start reaching out. Now, this is stat from Inside Sales Labs. Just ponder that for a minute. Is that true in your organization? How much time do you think reps spend researching accounts? Oh yeah, there you go. There you go. got a couple of people coming in there. So yeah, so we're getting a variety of number here. So Tim says, Tim's back again. Tim's got 17 minutes, sounds a little bit rough. Taylor says we've got 12 minutes probably per account, but we only do it one time. We're pretty good about taking notes. Kim says maybe 5 minutes per. Oh, I like this one. This is Jerry. Jerry wrote in and said we follow a model that does kind of this 3x3. I think I know what you're talking about there, Jerry. That's the foresight model. You know, they find 3 good things or 3 things about that person in 3 minutes. So maybe a 3-minute thing for you. So it sounds like people are a little bit around they're jumping a little bit around on that, which I'm not surprised. But this is a fairly big number, and we're finding that reps this is so important. You have to find something about them, or you can write some generic stuff, but usually it's good to think of some personalization. So what reps are typically doing, and this is good, they'll jump on LinkedIn, they'll jump to Zoom or Indeed or Owler or their website, and they go around all of these different places to see if they can't find just some basic info so that they don't look stupid when they reach out, basically. I usually like to coach reps in what I call the ROI research model. This is a fun one, and it takes some practice, but it's kind of the order. And you can build this for your own organization. And this is something we talk to you about as we think about kind of wrapping up here at the end, trying to consult you on what does your optimal prospecting methodology or model look like. We call ours, this is ROI. And again, yours might be slightly different, but I want to take you through this. And it's really just meant to be no more than 10 minutes. And you really should be just doing it once and taking notes so that you don't have to do it again. But I like this idea. You want to go company and contact there up at the top, and then you find some of the sources that are key for your reps. But you want this notated. If not, you're always going to have reps just going in random places. And I promise for your organization, just like ours, there are some best practices. So we like to start in CRM, and you got a minute there. Did this person already come in? Is there an active opportunity? Are they a customer? What's happened with them? What have they done in the past? Has there been other engagements that I could reference or use? Ooh, great, there is. Then I immediately jump out and I start my prospecting. If not, I jump onto social. I jump into LinkedIn and say, hey, what are some of the things that I can figure out there? Go through a couple key sequences in LinkedIn to see if there isn't some relevant information about what's happening with that person or with that company that I could use in prospecting. From that, if I don't have enough, then I got to jump into some of these apps. And usually we say apps because in your org might be different. We love Owler at InsideSales.com. We used to love Charlie. They've since disbanded. You may have a specific thing. A lot of HR companies love Glassdoor, obviously, if you're selling, HR technology, that direction. So there may be an app or a tool you're not aware of. So Wikipedia is not a bad one. That you might be able to garner enough information to say, okay, I got it. I think I know what's going on here. Then last but not least, we like the website. You go there, you get the About Us news, try to make sure that you understand the basics and you're able to move on. Coaching people through that, and I'm hitting at a high level, but there's some double clicks on each of those boxes. Once you get the relevant info, you write it down, get it into that CRM, because I don't want to have to find it again if I don't have to. And that concept then allows you to begin prospecting. So the idea of review, organize, and ignite. So review some of these sources, organize them in your CRM, and then ignite that conversation as you begin prospecting. So there's some great manual ways to do this. Now, as we think about automation, as we think about how can we get more information to come to me versus me always going to it. And I want to give a couple examples here. And I think that will help kind of crystallize this. So again, I'm looking at the Playbooks product from InsideSales.com. And what you see here is that Kyle individual that I talked about before, we're now running a play with him. And I'm going to talk about a play in just a minute. But you want to have a couple pieces of information here. Number one is, boy, would it be helpful, is if you're going to call somebody, you could actually understand if that phone number is good or not good. Now, we use a little secret sauce here called artificial intelligence powered by collective intelligence. What that means is when you see this little box here, the phone number had a correct contact 28 days ago. What it means is when you sign up with InsideSales.com, much like Waze, if you're familiar with Waze, Waze versus Apple Maps is slightly different, right? Waze takes the information from multiple drivers in order to accurately predict and recommend navigational routes. That's kind of how inside sales works. It's kind of the Waze for sales. We're going to look at phone numbers that other people have used in the past, and we're going to feed that to you and say, hey, someone else on our system called this phone number. I think this is pretty good. On the flip side, it may say, you know what, someone else didn't call this, and there's another number that is associated to that, and you might want to check it out. That may be one of the things you kind of want to go down and check out. Oh, let's go back. Christina, this is a good question. I'm going to pop back, you guys. Christine just said, back on that ROI, if the R and O do not yield enough good information, then at that point, are you making the decision not to ignite the conversation, reach out, or have you made the decision at a different point in that pre-research? So usually what I find, Christine, on that is if you go through, again, your CRM, social, some of these apps, and then their website, you can typically find something that you can run with. Now, in the case that you don't, which I think you're asking about, I usually then have something that does go more generic. And let me just give you a quick example. And if I were working with you, Christine, I'd say something like the following. Christine, we've worked with hundreds of sales leaders in over the past couple of years. And the top challenge, literally, we've surveyed them. And the top challenge we found for sales leaders is building pipeline. Did you know sales leaders actually say it's 2 times harder, nearly 2 times harder to build pipeline than it is to close pipeline? Christine, is that something you're dealing with? Is that a challenge you're dealing with? And then I'd continue in the email or the talk track. Now, the reason I did that, Christine, is I'm now personalizing what? Not about the person, but I'm going after the persona. I'm going after the role. And you should know a lot about your roles, and that's a great thing. So if you don't have personalized information about the company or person, go ahead and use something quote unquote generic that's personalized to the persona. IT leaders, what are they struggling with? Sales leaders, what are they struggling with? See if you can hit a pain point. I love it when people reach out to me as a marketing and sales leader and say, hey, I've got a secret to help you build more pipeline. Excuse me? I'm always, I don't have all the tricks in my bag. I need help. Help me. So I love that idea. Hopefully that helps, Christine. Yes, I think that is correct. So Christine then replied and said, so it sounds like you have decided the company is worth the ROI research. That is correct. And I apologize if I missed that. So you would want to discover them initially in that first phase, right? Make sure they're the ideal account. Now the question is, how can I reach out to them in a personalized way? Ooh, there's nothing personalized. Let's personalize around the persona. That's how I'd kind of recommend it. Great question though, Christine. So back to this, I think there's a couple things in that contact information that will be helpful as you think about reaching out to somebody. Now, in addition to that, the thing that I wanted to kind of highlight here that I think will be somewhat helpful is, oh, I just got popped back. Just one second here. me see if I can get into it. Yeah, here we go. Is this idea right here. And that is with one of our plugins, right in that little Cadence pipeline building program, I click a button called View Insights, and it actually pops out a labeler here. And it's got some information from their website. It's got some news information down below. It's got a link to this person's LinkedIn. I can also pop onto their Twitter. I can see people who've connected with me. I can see we're both part of the same group here. That's kind of a cheat. It's kind of a cheat code. It takes that ROI model. It takes and it allows you to kind of customize it and say, you know what, rather than I'm going to go to it, the website, so it's going to come to me, and you can cut that 17 minutes on average down to something that is a little more reasonable, maybe 5 minutes, because it's come to you. Oh, okay, I got this, this, and this, and now I've got something a little bit more to talk about. That can be a great way as you think about this concept of understanding your prospects. Now, let me hit this last phase about engage, because you should now understand I've got the right people, I've got them in the order I should be attacking, and I'm feeling fairly comfortable that I know a little bit about the company and the person. Now, this is where you really, the rubber meets the road. You need an engagement strategy that actually works, and there's some myths out there about this. In fact, I want to go into one maybe just as we start here. I'd forgotten that I had this. I think this will be a good one. We actually did a research study, and if you haven't checked out some of our research, guys, you got to hit me up after. I think these are fantastic. It's part of what we can talk about in our consultation around this offer I want to give you. Some of the best practices we're seeing around engagement. It's one of my favorite things to talk about with people, because it's better to start with data than intuition. Start with data, bring in intuition, and it's no more important than it is in this area. So real quick, we did this for 2 research pieces. One, we just asked 1,000 salespeople. We said, hey, what do you believe is the average number of times that you actually touch a prospect? So you got this, John Doe at company XYZ, and you're going to send them some emails or do some phone calls or send them a LinkedIn note. How many times, like overall touches, how many voicemails and emails? Well, they said 15.4. I thought, okay, that sounds about right. That's what people, might work out. That might be the right thing. Okay. Well, then we actually looked at the data. And the data came out that it was, what they actually do is 3.04 per contact. What that means is they're liars. My wife, I said the other day, I said, my wife, when she asked me if I go to the gym, I said, I think I go about 5 times a week. When in reality, I go never. So sometimes as salespeople, we get a little bit ahead of ourselves. Now, if you're wondering, what we consider to be best practice based on data is actually 7 touches per contact, right around that 7. And this also, you got to factor in things like capacity and things like that, you guys. But know that when we looked at literally millions of data points across hundreds of thousands of cadences or sequences, when it's talking about outbound, and that is different than inbound, going cold to an account versus responding to a lead, 7 touches in a cadence is kind of that optimal number. Now, that doesn't mean you can't. I love to recycle and bring them back a month later and hit them again. But these things where someone says hit them 30 times in 10 days, it's kind of a lot. It's kind of a lot. So this was actually a cadence or a sequence that someone submitted to me, or I believe it was submitted. Looking at my friend here. I want to just kind of get your opinion on this. What do you feel like is good or not good about this? And again, this is one of the things I really want to talk to you about in this consultation I want to offer you, because I want to see your cadence. I want to see your sequence, because there's, whether you believe it or not, there's art and science that drives this table, and I think I can do wonders for you. Go ahead and put that in the Q&A box. So a couple of people popping in, total number of touches. I gave you just 7. So a couple of you saying, we got, is it Marcy? It looks like Marcy. So the touches look like they're a little over that 7. Is that bad? It depends. I said 7. Marcy, again, was more on the outbound side. This one is more on the inbound side. So it is a little different. On this cadence, we're following up with leads that were generated from marketing. And so in this instance, 10 is actually kind of at the high number. but inbound, it's pretty optimal. Couple of you saying why, well, it looks like we got, who was that? Let me scroll up just a little bit. It looks like it was John. John said, why are we starting with email when it's an inbound case? It's a good question, John. I wanted to bring that one in. Guys, usually on an inbound cadence, you want to start more aggressive, meaning if a lead comes to you and it's a good lead, you want to get them and you want to get them fairly quickly. I'd go more aggressive with phone. It looks like what's this one? Let me go through. Looks like Jamie says, should you really wait until day 3 to do a phone call? Yeah, not only, this is kind of John's point, not only did they do day 1 and day 2 just emails, then they wait all the way till day 3. So I don't think that's right, Jamie. That you're losing some of the power as you wait longer and longer. What do you think about the length? It looks like this goes a total, all these touches, add up to about 10, but it just goes for 5 days. What do you think about 5 days? Looks like there's some mixed opinions on that. Some of you feel like that's a good thing. Some of you feel like that's a bad thing. Truthfully, when it comes to inbound cadences, you have most of your goodness, most of your success happens in those first 3 days. I'm not opposed to taking this up to about that 7, maybe even 10-day mark on the cadence, but oftentimes it's better to hit them early and often. So my point on this, you guys, is there's some best practices around building strategic sequences that you definitely want to be aware of. Now, the problem that we find with most people is they're not even in the same ballpark. They're not even tracking this. I say, how many reps, how many calls are your people doing per person per day, or how many emails, or how many tasks total, or how many touches are you doing per person, or per account, or per contact? And it's just this kind of blank stare. You need to start with visibility. That's one of the first things, whether you're doing it in Excel or you get a tool like Inside Sales. And again, I can coach you on some of this in that consult, but you want to get visibility. Got to get that visibility. If you can get that visibility, you can see down here, I love to benchmark people. This is some of our benchmark data. The average inside sales reps does about 100 overall tasks, and about 30 of those are, 30-ish of those are phone calls. But we want to get visibility and then start driving that number, usually both quality and quantity. Let's get a little more activity going, but let's also get the quality going. Because I'll tell you, you can send 1,000 emails, and that might be right for you, but send one good one, can make a big difference. So quality and quantity are always two levers I like to pull. Some people are like, oh, we should just be doing quality. And look, I don't care. I want results. So if it's the quality lever, let's pull more of that. If it's the quantity lever, let's pull it. Let's test both of them. So this is kind of a sequence, and this is one of the things I would recommend to you. I'm a little bit, don't get me wrong, I like cadences, I like sequences, but I'm a little bit anti because of what I just said. A lot of focus on, oh man, should it be 5 touches or 6 touches? And if you don't match the message, good messaging with good cadence, it just doesn't matter. And I think people over-rotate way too far on just the touches and forget about the messaging. That's why we've introduced something on the right-hand side called plays. And plays are strategic prospecting initiatives that are designed to build pipeline. But the main point of a play is it focuses on giving value. That A right there, assets. What value can I give before I get? Am I just saying, hey, do you want a demo for InsideSales.com? Do you want to talk to one of our salespeople? Or am I offering something of value first, a research study, a case study, a video, an overview, a discounted ticket at something, template, something that makes them want to spend some more time with you? We've got to find that balance of just throwing activities and then having meaningful activities. So I like plays. They have a purpose. They have a targeted list. Again, they have assets that give value. They're structured around specific goals, and they iterate around those goals. And then comes the sequence, right? Then you start to think about the activities. And there's some great best practices here. You can see them around the bottom. 7 attempts on an outbound. That's usually where you want to be for an optimal cadence. You wouldn't believe you get a 3x improvement if you use 3 methodologies. That's phone, voicemail, email versus 1 methodology, just being an email marketer or just being a social seller. I got a lot of these sales reps saying, oh, I just love social. It's the only way to go. Okay, I'm not gonna, don't get me wrong, each business is different, but the typical, I don't buy it. Oh, I'm a cold caller, Dave. That's what I do. Or I'm just an email person. I just email. Look, our data says the more media, the better. So running a multi-channel is very important. Duration, as I said, optimally outbound, you're looking around that 8 days. Spacing of activities, probably the most overlooked is 1.5 days. So you don't want to be spacing. A lot of cadences I get say, oh, I did a phone call Monday and then I did a phone call the next Monday. What? Look, I can't even remember what I did yesterday, you guys, let alone last week. You can't space out activities. You hit them hard with a play, and then you recycle them. Let them sit for a little bit and then bring them back in with a different play, right? That's the way it works effectively in pipeline management. Now, you can try to do that manually. I think it works very well. You can also build that into a tool and technology like InsideSales.com Playbooks product. You can see here I've entered Kyle, and I've actually entered him into what I call the IT executive play. And you can have these different plays, but they're associated with value-based steps. So I start with a phone call, and I've got kind of a talk track that I could run on the phone call. And then I've got an email later. I could include a social message, and the email might have an attachment, or the social message might have an attachment, but you run somebody through this standardized, structured, best practice sequence of activities built around value. And then a lot of people say, man, how are you building so much pipeline at InsideSales.com? And it's plays. It's plays. I don't do sequences because sequences are just activities, but I've got 5 to 6 plays that are just money. And they work well, but they have both the value-based component and the activity-based component, and then it becomes very, very lucrative. So that's that piece on engagement here. So let me wrap up and summarize. Would love to answer some more of your questions. Great engagement today. Appreciated you jumping on. Christine, Jim, Nick, couple of you guys, definitely John. Got a bunch of questions from you guys. I'm anxious to talk to you here, hopefully soon after this as well, pending kind of your thought on that. Here's the 5 steps. Again, discover, prioritize, understand, engage. Understand, I kind of loop 2 things in there together, but making sure you get the right people, prioritizing them, knowing about them, and then making sure you engage with them at the right time and in the right way using kind of that multi-channel cadence approach. Those are all extremely important. Now, how many of you are feeling overwhelmed because we covered a lot? We're just at the 45-minute mark. How many of you felt a little overwhelmed? A couple of you? Yeah, it looks like a couple of you. We still got a lot of people on. I appreciate you sticking on. I know we're going. So yeah, look, if you're feeling a little overwhelmed, I want to take just a minute and give you this offer. Would that be okay? It'll just take 2 or 3 minutes. Yep. Yeah, perfect. Looks like we got a couple of you. Thank you. Yes, I can go ahead. Thank you for the permission. So let me take you through this offer, as I think it's definitely valuable for both you and your company. We call this it's a response assessment. And what it is a very thorough assessment of your reach out strategy, focusing mostly on that last step around engagement. I want to print something like this for you. I want to, and truthfully, all I need for you to do is go into the Q&A box, type your name and your phone number, and I'll have one of my guys give you a call. We'll do this consultation, walk you through this assessment, how we do it, the value that you can get from it. But let me just take you through kind of how it looks. Again, it's depending on the detail that we can get from you. It's a 5 to 7 page report, and we do actually have a little bit of a score, and it scores you on your ability to respond to leads from a website. So this is more inbound focused. In addition to that, and it looks like we got a couple of people already. Yeah, Jamie's coming in. Thank you for putting your number in there, Jamie. Mike put it in. Thank you, Mike. It focuses on the immediacy side of things, trying to figure out how good or bad you are at responding to inbound leads. And then, but it also focuses on that cadence. What does your follow-up strategy look like? Your phone calls and your emails, and we'll dissect them and listen to your voicemails and dissect your emails. And it becomes a pretty fun little exercise to understand what is working and what's not working within that engagement part of the 5 secrets. And it is something that we do kind of as a secret shopper program. And as I said, we've done thousands of these, and we'll benchmark you against that. We typically charge around $500 for the assessment, and then a couple $100 for the consulting call. But for those of you on this webinar, I wanted to walk through it with you. I want to do that consultation. If you put your number in that chat box, we'll go ahead, give you a call, set this up, run the assessment, and then we'll run that consulting call to talk to you about how well you're doing. And we're not going to be charging the $725. We want to go different here. We want to give that to you as a value base for coming to today's webinar. This is actually a real client. This is someone I ran it with, company who is in the assessment and survey business. And we actually ran a couple of them. You can see that when we went and assessed their ability to respond to inbound leads, we did 5 of them in here. And these are the time. I'm just focusing on the time here. The first one they responded to in 145 minutes. The next 2 they never responded to. Ooh, look at that fourth one. They responded very quickly, 5.5, 6.5. And then that last one was really long. I don't even know what 1,380 minutes. I don't know what 1,380 minutes. Looks like a couple of you agree with me. If you can translate the 1,380 minutes, please do that now. No, but this is the problem. It was all over the board. You know, on average, it was 156 minutes, but 2 of them they never even responded to. So I don't know. I don't think that actually gets factored in there. But making this visible, talking to them about best practice, working with them on best practices, giving them some of the research. How fast should you actually be responding to a lead? Well, there's multiple studies out there, you guys. You got 24 hours is kind of the minimum. You don't want to go over 24 hours. Doesn't matter the data source, I believe you look at. 1 hour is not bad. That's kind of a great, healthy place to shoot for. Certainly best practice. Certainly ultimate, optimal looks like that 5-minute mark. If you have high quality inbound leads that come to you and say, I'm interested, getting back to them in 5 minutes, chat, quick response is becoming extremely important. So we made that visible, standardized their process, looked at their follow-up strategy. And again, this is just their response time, but we got it down to that 11 minutes, and you can see it's not perfect everywhere, but it's just more consistent, it's more standard, and it made a big difference in their business. So again, if you're interested in this, if you're interested in that consultation, go to that Q&A box, type your name, put your number in there. We'll give you a call, talk to you about this assessment and how we can help you change your business through our structured approach, really focusing in on that engagement piece. So for next steps, you guys, again, put your name and number in there. I'll give you a call. We'll set up that consultation, run the assessment. We'll have a readout for you, and I promise it'll be worth your time. This is not something that we do often in the sense of offering this free of charge for those people who are attending this webinar. It's a $700 value. We want to give that to you for free. You just have to type your phone number in there, and then we will give you a quick call. So with that, everybody, thank you, thank you, thank you. Great engagement today. I hope you learned some valuable insights, some tidbits and takeaway that you can have. I'd love to continue that conversation. Again, oh, it looks like we got some more coming in. Yep, Tim, thanks for doing that. Tim's got it. Tim will give you a call. Peter, thank you. I hadn't been watching the Q&A box here for just a minute. We got 5, 6, 7 more. Yep, looks like we already had those 2 come in. Yep, Jamie, Mike. Looks like we got Ryan coming in. Ryan, thank you. We'll give you a heads up here shortly. Who else we got here? It's odd, you got to scroll through some of this stuff. Yes, fantastic. Yeah, Christine will definitely get you. Thank you, Christine. Very interesting questions. Guys, thank you. Any other questions you want to handle now? We'll definitely hit them in your consultation. Couple more coming in. So this is a great one, and I haven't heard from this person yet. This was Kaysen. Kaysen, saying, hey, you focus so much on outbound cadences, on some of the best practices, can you go over inbound? Okay, so we may need to take that offline. But I love the idea of inbound and really focusing in on that. Let me just give you a couple things. It is different. That's probably one of the things you need to know the most, Kaysen, is outbound and inbound is different. As we mentioned, you're more aggressive on inbound. You're definitely more aggressive on, you want to go with the phone to start, and you want to get them fast. 3 days is kind of your hit there. You can go up a little more on the touches, up into that 10 range. Spacing becomes a little tighter, more like 1 day versus 1.5 days. And then again, same principle applies on outbound. More methodologies, typically the better. Got to be careful of getting into direct mailer and things like that because it slows you down. But definitely 3, phone, voicemail, email, and adding in that social can be very, very good. So Kaysen, we can talk more about that after. Would be happy to jump in because we actually have a big study on that we did with inbound cadences and how people are building pipeline with that. Good. Couple more questions, you guys. Please connect with me on LinkedIn. I'll answer some of these as a follow-up. We're going to shut down for the day. We'll be contacting those of you who are interested in taking that next step. Really appreciate it and have a fantastic, fantastic afternoon. Thanks, everybody. Take care.